Have you ever silenced your intuition so many times that it stopped speaking altogether? It doesn't vanish with a thunderous goodbye, it fades quietly. It dims itself slowly, respectfully, almost lovingly, as if it knows you had to betray it to survive. This is not your fault. This is the quiet inheritance passed through generations, an emotional spell taught to daughters who were never allowed to know their own truth. You were not taught to listen within. You were taught to scan the room for danger, for shifts in your mother's tone, for the storm in her silence. Your inner knowing was traded for safety, for peace, for love that was never stable, but always earned. And so, your intuition dimmed. Like a candle in wind, it flickered, it gasped, and then it waited. This is not just about trauma. This is about the ancient silencing of feminine wisdom, a spiritual dismemberment that began when you were too small to name it. And yet, even in your forgetting, your intuition remembers you. It has never abandoned you, only waited for the moment you would come back to yourself. The moment when your inner voice would whisper, not with fear, but with fire. Are you ready to remember the voice you buried? Because she, your intuition, is ready to return home. The mother wound is not always bruises or screaming. Sometimes, it is the absence of being seen. It is a child looking up for reflection and finding fog. It is the instinctive knowing that if she spoke too much, felt too deeply, cried too loudly, love might disappear. And so, she learned to shrink, to abandon her body, to doubt what she felt before she even knew how to speak it. This is the essence of the mother wound, a fracture not just in relationship, but in reality itself. Because our first mirror is our mother, and when that mirror is broken, our reflection becomes scattered. We question our instincts, we dismiss our sensations, we exile our truth in exchange for approval, for belonging, for a version of love we were taught was conditional. But intuition, real, raw, wild intuition, is not born from permission, it is born from presence. It rises in a body that feels safe. It whispers in spaces where emotion is allowed to live. And if your mother, due to her own pain, could not hold your emotions, then you learned to hold your breath instead of your truth. You stopped listening inward. You learned to survive outward. And the intuitive self, she didn't die, she just went quiet. This is how the mother wound doesn't just hurt you, it fragments you. It disconnects you from the sacred compass that was once your birthright. But that compass still lives within you, covered, perhaps, but not broken. To understand how you lost access to your intuition, we must return to the moment you learned it was not safe to feel, not safe to know, not safe to be fully alive in your own body. You see, a child doesn't abandon her intuition for no reason. She does it to stay connected to the mother who could not hold it. She learns to read her mother's mood before she knows how to read her own. She becomes attuned to the emotional weather outside her skin, instead of the sacred signals rising from within it. And so begins the subtle exodus. She leaves her inner temple. She exits the sanctuary of her own truth. She builds a home in other people's approval, and she forgets how to recognize the voice of her own soul. This is not weakness. It is intelligence, emotional, ancestral, spiritual. She does what she must to survive the disconnection. She learns to be good, to be quiet, to overperform, to people please, to twist her own knowing into something that fits the mold. Until, one day, the knowing is no longer clear. The signals have grown faint. The voice has gone silent. This is what we call intuitive amnesia, the forgetting of your own inner voice, not because you were broken, but because you were adapting. But even in forgetting, the body remembers, the soul remembers, and when the time is right, when safety returns, the voice does too. Not all at once, but like a candle being relit, one flicker at a time. How do you know your intuition was buried beneath the wound of your mother? You know it in the moments you hesitate to speak, even when your body is screaming the truth. You know it in the quiet anxiety that arises when you are asked to make a decision, not because you don't know what to do, but because you don't trust the knowing that already lives inside you. You ask others what they think. You overthink. You second guess. You apologize before you've even spoken. You call it logic, but really, it's fear in disguise. You fear being wrong. You fear being too much. You fear being abandoned if you're too honest, too sensitive, too intuitive. Just as you were taught, you feel safest in your head, not in your body. You hear the voice within, but only faintly, and you wonder if it's just imagination. You've become excellent at analyzing, rationalizing, perfecting, and yet something in you is starving, not for knowledge, but for knowing, for the ancient, embodied truth that once pulsed in your belly before it was ever spoken in your mind. You have dreams that feel like messages, but you don't know how to interpret them. You get gut feelings, but you override them. You sense people's energy, but you don't trust what it's telling you. And still, part of you knows. A part of you always knows. These are not flaws. They are symptoms of a sacred wound, and the presence of these symptoms means this: your intuition was never lost, only silenced. It is not gone, only waiting for you to come back. Before the silence, there was a voice. Before the doubt, there was a knowing. Before the world taught you to override your instincts, you were wild in your clarity, a small priestess in a tiny body, walking through life with senses wide open. You noticed the tone beneath the words. You heard the secrets hiding in the spaces between people. You looked at the moon and felt it speak. You knew when something was off, even if no one said a thing. You knew when someone was lying, even if they smiled. You knew who was safe and who wasn't, by how your belly tightened or your heart fluttered. You were not taught to be intuitive. You were intuitive. You are. It was never a skill. It was your soul's first language. But the world, through the wound of the mother, told you it wasn't real, that your feelings were too much, that your tears were manipulative, that your dreams were nonsense, that your perception was just your imagination running wild. So you learned to doubt what you once knew without question. You placed logic above sensation. You placed obedience above knowing. You left yourself to belong to others. But now, you are remembering. You are remembering the girl who knew, the girl who felt, the girl who didn't need proof to trust her body's wisdom. She is still inside you, not buried, only waiting, waiting for you to return, not as a child, but as a woman, not for innocence, but for power, because your intuition is not a mystery. It is memory. And every time you listen to it, you bring her home. There is a mother within you. She was not born through biology, but through awakening. She is the one who rises when the pain becomes too loud to ignore. The one who says, you no longer need to abandon yourself to be loved. She is the one who comes not to punish the past, but to repair the future. She is the one who picks up the broken mirror your mother left behind, and begins to gently piece it back together. The inner mother is the healer of your intuition, because she teaches you what the outer mother couldn't, that your feelings are valid, your perceptions are trustworthy, and your body is sacred ground. She does not rush, she does not force, she listens, she softens. When your heart tightens, she places a hand there. When your thoughts spiral, she whispers, you are safe to return to yourself. And in that safety, intuition returns. You begin to notice the subtle signals. Again, the flicker in your gut when a choice feels wrong, the spark in your chest when something resonates as true, the chills that run down your spine when spirit moves through you. You begin to trust what once felt dangerous. You begin to speak what you once swallowed. You begin to hear the voice you once silenced, and you no longer need the world's permission to believe in yourself, because the inner mother, your sacred remothering voice, has taken her seat at the center of your being. She doesn't replace the mother you had. She becomes the mother you needed, and she raises the intuitive self, not through correction, but through compassion, not through fear, but through faith. She is not an idea, she is a presence, and she is already within you, waiting to be heard. Healing intuition is not an intellectual task, it is a sacred return to sensation, a remembering that happens through the body, through breath, through ritual. The intuitive self speaks in symbols, not in spreadsheets, and she waits for you in the quiet moments, in the spaces where you stop trying to be right, and simply become available to what already knows. So how do you begin to listen again? Start small. In the morning, place your hand over your heart and ask, what do you know that I've been afraid to hear? Then sit, breathe, don't analyze, just listen. Even silence is a message. Keep an intuition journal, a sacred space where logic has no reign. Write down your dreams, your gut feelings, the things you just knew. Over time, you'll see the patterns. You'll see that you were always right, just too afraid to trust yourself. Take silence walks in nature. Let your body lead, not your mind. Pause when something draws you in, a flower, a feather, a flicker of light. These are messages. The earth speaks to the intuitive woman, and she answers with attention. Create intuitive art without planning. Let color, texture, and motion come through you. It's not about beauty, it's about energy. Every stroke is a message from the part of you that words can't hold. Before sleep, place a few drops of oil, lavender, frankincense, or mugwort on your forehead. Whisper a phrase of remembrance. I am safe to receive. I am willing to hear. I trust my inner voice. Let dreams come. Let them guide. And most of all, honor what arises, even when it makes no sense, even when it's inconvenient, because your intuition is not here to make life easier. It's here to make it truer. Ritual is the bridge, consistency is the vessel, and reverence is the key that unlocks the temple of your inner knowing. You are not healing in isolation. You are part of a wave, a quiet revolution moving through the hearts of women across the planet. One by one, they are waking up from the trance of disconnection, from centuries of being told to doubt, to silence, to shrink. You are not just remembering your intuition, you are carrying the memory of thousands who were never allowed to speak theirs. This is not personal, it is ancestral, it is collective, it is divine timing. There was a time, long before this one, when the feminine voice was sacred, when oracles spoke in dreams, and healing came from listening to the body. A time when the wisdom of the womb was not shameful, but sovereign. That time did not vanish, it was buried. And now, it rises again through you. Every time you honor your gut feeling, every time you choose stillness over speed, every time you say no without explanation, you are not just reclaiming yourself. You are repairing a broken lineage. Your healing becomes a bridge between the women who could not and the daughters who one day will. And though your mother may never have found her voice, though your grandmother may have never felt safe to dream, you do. And that choice changes everything. You are part of a movement older than memory. The awakening of the intuitive feminine, not loud, not forced, not performative, but powerful in its silence, certain in its knowing, unshakable in its sacred rhythm. This is your inheritance, and it cannot be taken, only remembered. You were never meant to live in self-doubt. You were not born to silence your soul just to feel safe. You came here to remember your voice, not the one that pleases or performs, but the one that pulses beneath the surface of every moment. That voice is your intuition, and it is not fragile. It is not naive. It is not irrational. It is sacred. You were taught to suppress it, to trade it for logic, for acceptance, for safety in a world that feared its power. But suppression is not your origin. Sovereignty is the moment you stop asking for permission to know what you know. You step into the realm of the woman who remembers. She doesn't need to explain her no. She doesn't need to justify her yes. She doesn't need proof to trust her own body. She walks with the rhythm of her own truth, unshaken, unashamed, untamed. This is what it means to come home, to rise from the spell of invisibility, to gather the fragments of the self you once exiled, just to be loved, and to declare, I trust myself. I am my own oracle. I am sovereign. This is not about rejecting your mother. This is about releasing her voice from the throne of your inner temple, so that your own voice can rise, clearly, unapologetically, as it was always meant to. The world may still try to silence it, but now, you know better. You know that your intuition is not an echo. It is the source. And from this place of wholeness, you no longer just survive. You lead. You create, you heal, not from fear, but from knowing. You are not broken. You are remembering. And every time you trust yourself again, you rebuild the temple that lives in your own soul. The voice you silenced to survive is the voice that will guide you home. In the stillness of your breath, in the quiet spaces between thought, there lies a sacred knowing waiting patiently. It waits not for certainty, but for courage. It waits not for perfection, but for presence. So sit with yourself, light a candle, place a hand on your heart, and listen. What does your intuition whisper when the world grows silent? This journey is not linear. It will ask you to fall apart, and to rise again, stronger, to grieve what was lost, and to celebrate what is being found, to forgive what you could not understand, and to honor what you are becoming. Remember, healing. The mother wound is healing the channel to your soul's wisdom. It is reclaiming the power you were always born with. It is coming home to yourself, one sacred breath at a time. If this message touched you, let it ripple. Share it with those who need to hear. Journal your feelings, sit in nature, and above all, trust the voice that never left you. You are not alone, you are not broken, you are awakening, and your intuition is ready to lead.